That's it.
So tell me, how does a female athlete navigate her career once she's made it?
Well, there's two categories. Either wholesome, all-American, squeaky clean, or sexy vixen. Why is our society today like that? Why do women have to be like that and the men don't?
You look at a male athlete, and they can make their entire living based off their skill. For a female athlete, we make most of our money on the side.
If you look at why the media focuses on women in sports,
Good. No, nice.
the sex appeal has to be part of the equation.
I don't think selling sex is ever going to be outdated. It's like when people say like breasts are in or breasts are out or breasts are never going to be out.
It's a business. Sports is a business. It's about moving product, about getting viewers. You have to perform.
She literally made them hundreds of millions of dollars by looking hot.
For us as women, the only respect you get is if you shut your mouth and play the game.
Some of the advice that I got was don't talk about politics, don't talk about religion, don't talk about things that are gonna upset people. I did feel that America was branding me.
Now, she's worth looking at. Not particularly beautiful, and definitely not a glamour girl. But she sure glows with vitality and well-being that turns the head and catches the eye.
Yes, it was a man's world. When you page through Life magazine or Sports Illustrated, there were only pictures of women in the kitchen with a product. That was it. And then something happened.
Yesterday, they marched on Wall Street, protesting what they say is the male domination of economics.
In the early 70s, you saw for the first time that women's independence, freedom, maybe even dominance is attainable. And that was what was going on around the time of Billie Jean King.
Bobby Riggs plays Mrs. Billie Jean King on a tennis court in Houston. It's a match that's being billed as an epic battle of the sexes.
Billie, why have you taken up the challenge?
And we've been ridiculed so much, the women tennis players, that I feel I have a cause now to fight for.
You really plan to win this match? That's like a pussycat getting in a ring with a tiger. And I just hope she shows up.
Welcome to the tennis battle of the sexes. It's tennis with a circus atmosphere here at the Astrodome.
All night. And she is at match point.
Jean King wins the battle of the sexes. Hail to the winner. Long live the queen of tennis, Billie Jean King.
That was such a pivotal point in not only tennis, but for women in sports.
Billie Jean King, comma, K-I-N-G-S, comma.
Billie Jean King's contribution is phenomenal. She went and she knocked on doors for sponsorships.
What's your name?
And she had a vision.
We are entertainers, we are performers, and there's nothing better for a human being to be able to get paid for playing the sport well. I've done it. I earned that money.
And finally, a sponsor stood up, Virginia Slims.
It used to be, lady, you had no rights. That was back when you had to sneak up to the attic if you wanted a cigarette. Smoke in front of a man? Heaven forbid.
You come a long way, baby, to get where you got to today. You got your own cigarette now, baby. You come a long, long way.
I was a teenager from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Just a normal girl. And, you know, I loved tennis. I wasn't the fastest. I didn't hit the hardest. I wasn't the biggest, the strongest. I mean, I looked pretty innocuous. I looked just like a schoolgirl. But I was winning matches, and I was winning tournaments, and I was a champion.
Although she's very sweaty, I think Mr. Goss would kiss her, don't you?
This was really, in some ways, at the dawn of the athlete endorsement period. And one of the things, as an endorser, as a sports marketer, you're looking for is an ability for fans, for the average fan, to relate to the subject. And who couldn't relate to Chris Evert? It's just this perfect storm.
All the attention is going to focus on a 17-year-old American schoolgirl from Florida, Chris Evert. If you end up in the final, who do you think it'll be against?
If I end up in the final, well, I think I'm going to be taking one match at a time.
I think the way people felt about Chris Evert, they hadn't felt about anyone before. She had everything. The first woman athlete that both men and women love.
I like it. The time is good. The time is good. We'd make money on it.
In sports marketing, she was seen as can't miss. The marketing, supernova.
Here's Chris Evert Lloyd.
You know, the hardest part of playing tennis is getting in shape to play. That's why I love this new Lipton iced tea mix. No sugar, no saccharin. It's got NutraSweet. NutraSweet has a natural taste of sugar.
And who was the first person to cross that $1 million mark?
You're looking at her. The truth of the matter is, whether you like it or not, the feminine women athletes, you know, they were the only ones that got the endorsements.
Martina Navratilova, Czechoslovakia.
She's terribly strong.
Chris Evert. The Rosebud and the Rabbit. And who would the rabbit be?
Martina versus Chris Evert was an interesting juxtaposition too, because you have someone who's considered a butch athlete versus the girl next door, and Chris Evert.
The simple fact that we were so different in almost every aspect of our lives. You know, I was American, she was Czechoslovakian. You know, she was very muscular, and I was not, you know, that contrast of personalities, even down to she was gay and I was straight. And that didn't go over well with the endorsement level.
It's all an illusion, Martina. They can make them look like you got 12 foot of hair today. All right?
Martina Navratilova, as you haven't seen her before. The makeup artists and image makers went to work, partly as a result of adverse publicity, to soften her image.
Martina Navratilova.
Martina never had a chance compared to Chris Evert on Madison Avenue. It not only was the looks, I mean, I would say that the American factor at that time was more important than ever before. Chris Evert, she was American. Damn it.
President Reagan referred to the Soviet Union as an evil empire.
Mr. Reagan said tense relations with the Soviets got even worse.
There is no doubt this morning the Soviet Union will boycott the Summer Olympics in Los Angeles.
Right over here. 36 women are competing for the individual all-around gymnastics title. The dominant Romanian women are favored in the individual all-around competition. The United States is represented by 16-year-old Mary Lou Retton.
When you cheer for women's sports and you're also cheering for the country, it's a masculine rationalization that it's okay.
And I wouldn't want to be in Mary Lou's position right now. This has got to be the most pressuring event.
She needs 9.95 to tie, a 10 to win.
I say to myself, I said, this is it. Everything you had sacrificed up to this point, leaving home, you know, giving up my entire childhood, all the hours and years of training. This next 3-second vault is gonna determine whether or not you win this medal.
Oh, here we go, the green light. Oh, boy. Yes! There it is! She did it! 10, the gold medal! The gold medal goes to Mary Lou Retton.
You could not have come up with a more perfect character than Mary Lou Retton. I mean, like middle America, she looks as American as you could possibly look.
America's newest darling, Olympic star, and Mary Lou Retton received a hero's welcome today.
Mary Lou Retton became the first American to win a gold medal in women's gymnastics.
Now at 16, Mary Lou's an international celebrity.
The media whirlwind was just mind-boggling. Purely crazy. I wasn't prepared for it. I don't think anybody could have prepared me for it.
Right. Thank you. Mary Lou, how do you feel with all this attention?
It's really hard to deal with, you know. It's like overnight, my life has changed. But I'm working it out. I'm okay.
You know, in 1984, the Olympic athletes like Mary Lou Retton, they were amateur and they'd have to have this big decision. Should I cash in now? Should I get my endorsements now? Or should I go for another Olympics?
You know, I come from nothing, and I remember making that conscious choice. You know, I'm 16. These opportunities, they're short-lived. Of course I have to take it. The endorsements and the opportunities came pouring in.
Mary Lou Retton. Now, you have signed a lot of contracts.
I was probably the most endorsed female athlete of the 80s, I would say. What endorsements did you first get? Yeah, oh my gosh. IBM, AT&T, McDonald's, Energizer, Dairy Queen, bug spray. I did a campaign for bowling. God, there were so many.
And then Wheaties, which I'm excited about.
Why excited about Wheaties?
I don't know, it's always been men, you know, on the boxes and endorsing them, and I think I kind of made a breakthrough in women's sports.
Well, what'd you have for breakfast this morning?
Oh, come on. If there were ever a no-brainer in sports sponsorship, it was Mary Lou Retton. All right, on the Wheaties.
Warming up, feeling neat, 'cause she's eating what the big boys eat. Pure and simple, toasted wheat. Now go get your Wheaties. That's what this girl eats.
Watch out, big boys.
Wow. America's sweetheart. You know, I didn't ask for that title. I have this smile. I was born with this smile. Some of the advice that I got back in that time from managers and agents and publicists, don't talk about things that are gonna upset people. Just be neutral. Give everybody the smile and just be happy. And that's what I did. And I lost my voice for a long time.
You know, in the late 80s, early 90s, people were making a lot of money. And sports marketing kind of became a big business.
In trading rooms on Wall Street, the markets skyrocketed.
There was so much money that women could actually, get some endorsements. Where the people on Madison Avenue were actually thinking about, wow, we can use her.
So was there ever a case where a woman athlete was groomed from day one to sort of be a big star?
I don't want to see anybody standing. Come on, 20 balls in a row.
With Anna Kournikova, they signed her very early. They saw her talent.
There's another one, another tennis whiz
Not bad for a little girl who came in from Russia just 3 months ago.
You're not watching a 13-year-old kid. You're watching an investment.
This was seen as more than just a sport. This was really a vehicle to something bigger. She was worth a lot of money to a lot of people. Eventually, someone realized that she had certain assets in addition to her tennis that could help her marketing.
You have to remember, this is the mid-90s, and the internet had just started to come up.
If you can imagine it, you can probably find it, they say, on the internet.
And for the first time, you could search for a woman's picture. Oh, you can get different pictures. And everyone wanted to see pictures of Anna Kournikova as the dial-up went. And you're sitting there for a minute and a half watching for it to load. And we were patient back then. I saw every picture. And I don't think I was that different from a whole bunch of other people.
Anna Kournikova was the most searched person on the internet. People saw her on the world stage at Wimbledon, and all of a sudden, she just really struck a chord.
Good.
Anna Kournikova brought sexiness, I think, into tennis, into women's sports in general.
Certainly other athletes before her had used sexuality, but to the point where it really became the centerpiece of her whole marketing strategy. We had never had a package like this.
She's like a supermodel. She throws the towel into the crowd, and there is a mad scrub.
I remember going to tournaments where guys would come with, they'd all sit there shirtless and they would say, "Marry me, Anna," on their chest, and tennis had this influx of this hormonally charged fan. And then a more talented, accomplished player would play the next match and they would all get in their cars and go home.
19-year-old Anna Kournikova has become the biggest moneymaker in women's tennis. Not from tennis, but from endorsement deals, reportedly worth more than $11 million.
At that time, she was in the top of any sports marketer's list for an endorsement deal. Like a stock market, you get someone at the right time, and Anna Kournikova could have been, the next Google or the next Apple or the next any kind of company that would take off in a big way. But she lost. She lost a lot, and she kept losing, and that's tough.
She was always playing in these prime events. Everybody sort of said this could be the time she wins her first major. And then when she didn't, it reignited this discussion over whether or not her endorsements were ill-gotten.
Okay, I'm rolling.
All right, first question. You're a tennis star, obviously, but most of your I think fame has come from off the court. Could you explain the phenomena that is you?
I'm just really happy that we've had so much interest and attention to women's tennis, which is great. And
right. But does it surprise you, though, how sought after you are by endorsement companies, given that you haven't officially won a tournament yet?
I can't explain that. You have to ask them.
Well, do you consider yourself more of a sex symbol or a tennis player? I am just... It wasn't a judgmental thing.
You know, it's ridiculous. She was a great tennis player. Yes, maybe she didn't perform to where they thought she should be. Maybe she didn't get to where she thought she should be. But she shouldn't be penalized for being beautiful and taking advantage of looking a certain way and getting a lot of business success off it. She certainly got eyeballs on tennis that wouldn't have been there. And that helped everybody.
You know, at a point in the 1990s, you saw female athletes beginning to get more attention.
For the first time, women athletes as a group are beginning to be taken seriously.
And also, you saw women in team sports. You saw women playing soccer. That would be girls who were playing in high school, girls who were playing in college, everywhere. Soccer, you know, it's always been the sport of the future and always will be. But for women, the future was now.
I remember very vividly getting down to the stadium and just all of us being excited and in disbelief at the same time, like, oh my gosh, they're coming to watch women's soccer.
This tremendous sellout crowd, largest ever witnessed a women's sporting event.
People, they just loved them. They were role models, but they were simple, they were accessible. You could talk to them on and off the field, and you could relate to them. So I think it just got a lot of attention, and it kind of steamrolled off of that. But at the end of the day, I like to think that the sport sold itself because the soccer was that exciting.
In my head, what I dreamt of, how the game would go, you know, the World Cup final, I never dreamt we'd go to overtime and not score any goals. And I never dreamt in a million years that I would be the last kicker for the penalty kick.
The United States must score here.
And I remember thinking that the media said, the future of women's soccer relies on this tournament. And the only way that it will really have a future and carry on is if they win, not if they just make it to the final. They have to win.
American team that brought home the Women's World Cup yesterday was all over the place today.
After kicking the game-winning goal, she tore off her shirt, exposing her black sports bra.
This picture has become the lasting image of the victory.
From now on, the most visible sign of achievement is showing your bra. Well, your sports bra, anyway.
It's a story that's generated much attention.
Tearing off of the jersey.
Thanks to Brady Chastain's little Justin.
Everybody's talking about the shirt, and nobody's talking about the game.
So there was no premeditated taking the shirt off?
Absolutely not. You know, thinking back to the moment, right? I think the amount of attention was, it was mind-numbing.
She just worked her entire life to win a World Cup, and she did it. And all people could talk about was in a sports bra.
This is the goal he needed. Takes his shirt off, has some fun, that's fine.
It was like, this is ridiculous. I mean, you see men taking off their jerseys and swinging them around their heads and celebrating. Because she stood out, people didn't like it, and that's unfortunate. She stood out. Who cares? Get over it.
To have a celebration means that you're accepting the good things that you do. And that it's okay to feel good about the good things you do. And there's not enough stages for young girls to see women having those moments.
The crazy thing is that someone offered her hundreds of thousands of dollars for that bra, and she told me she turned it down because she thought that it would just send the wrong message. Hundreds of thousands of dollars. She didn't make that in the history of her professional soccer career.
Here we go. Right. Here we go. Mike and cue. Okay, we're going to stand by. 3, 2, 1.
Here comes the feeling. Here comes the feeling.
You know, 1999, the Women's World Cup, there was a lot of momentum for women's sports, for the idea that women's professional sports can succeed.
Here comes the feeling. Coming up, coming up, coming up. Coming up, coming up, coming up, coming up, coming up.
And it didn't work. The attendance never really picked up. The crowds weren't good enough. They got the mothers and daughters, but they didn't get the sons and fathers. In order for women's sports to survive, you need men to be into it.
Live from beautiful Las Vegas, Nevada, Lingerie Bowl 9.
I think that you cannot put the common denominator low enough, you know, when you're talking about the American public. It's a white male world. We're just living in it.
In our society, what makes a man valuable? Power, money, influence. What makes a woman valuable? Her currency is how attractive she is. I mean, that's really the bottom line.
First and foremost, you have to be beautiful. We make no bones about it. I mean, that's the difference between this women's league and all the myriad of others that nobody cares about. This is an entire league of Anna Kournikovas. Women that are certainly competitive in their sports, but not the best necessarily.
So far in this game, Van Earl, there's no winners, only survivors.
The only women that have gotten any real attention are those women that are actually very attractive. And really, our press doesn't give women full credit for being great athletes. For example, women's basketball. It doesn't fit squarely within the way our society wants to view women.
You know, what I love about the WNBA is that there are women who dunk. The level of play and the athleticism is getting more and more intense. We are looking at some of the greatest athletes in the world.
It's up a long one, not to be denied.
Not some of the greatest female athletes, but some of the greatest athletes.
Oh my God, I love the WNBA. It's an amazing thing to watch. They are so wonderful, so powerful, and strong. And sadly, I think that's the problem.
She just threw a punch.
Oh, what are they doing? Don't try and be the men. That's not the appeal of the sport. You got to be something different.
If the players in their basketball league don't please an audience, there might not be a next year.
I mean, I think the proof is in the pudding. They've never been able to generate mass audience. I just think that the way the game is presented has to be changed if they want mass appeal.
I need more fans. I need everybody to come and support these amazing athletes.
What about using the sex appeal of the players?
What's funny is that some of them select jerseys and shorts twice the size that they should wear. And there are amazing bodies buried inside those jerseys. Some of the longest legs on the planet are on those athletes.
Well, whether you like it or not, you know, if you don't show it, how do you get people to come? Remember that it's a part of selling this whole thing, and I think basketball needs to change their uniforms, not look like guys in what they're wearing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think tennis players and beach volleyball players and track and field players, they wear a little bit less, and kind of helps generate some more buzz and interest.
You know, I take my daughter. I don't want her to think that looking good and wearing short shorts is preferable to making three-point shots. I think that they know their niche audience, and their niche audience would not respond well to sort of sexing up this league.
Good. Good, good. Yeah, good.
Well, at the end of the day, it's about business. It's about getting sponsorship, and it's about having enough money to be able to pay players, to be able to raise salaries, to be able to play the game.
Excellent. Good.
So, you know, people have to realize that we are a product. We're selling something. We're selling our sport.
Yeah, good.
And how we look is just as important as how we play. And is that fair?
There is a double standard with women. Believe me, there's a lot of guys that are not very good-looking guys that play sports. And they get to make a lot of money because people concentrate on their ability to play.
Don't shoot me for it, but if you want to be successful as a woman who's an athlete, sex appeal has to be part of the equation. Why do people take notice of beach volleyball? Because they're in bikinis.
Great volleyball crowd here in Manhattan Beach.
Oh, God. The one, the only, Gabrielle Reyes.
I don't think selling sex is ever going to be outdated. It's like when people say like breasts are in or breasts are out or breasts are never going to be out. That is what it is. So you have to take it with a grain of salt.
Gabby Reeves. He's got the whole package.
You understand that attention is yours for a moment, and then it becomes someone else's. I was 30 years old, and I was approached by Playboy. I was fortunate enough, I had a manager, and she was very willing to say, is that part of the long-term plan? You know, so you have to ask yourself, at the end of the day, what do I want to represent? And so I said, well, the only way I could do it is with a photographer that I've known since I was 18. And he'll go with me and we'll shoot it, and then he'll do the layout and he'll send you the photos. I also said I wasn't going to do a lot of publicity for it, and I owned all the internet and international rights for it, and they agreed. They paid me a lot of money to do it, and so I made that choice. My whole thing is all about authenticity. If people are authentically themselves, I'm down. I'm down with that.
Why is the media and society obsessed with girls like Lindsay, Brittany, and Paris?
How much constant media bombardment can we take before we start shutting it all out?
The world is more of a cluttered world.
What up, Cookie from Jersey Shore? I love LA.
Everyone wants their 15 minutes of fame. And you have to work harder to get more attention.
Unfortunately, sports is entertainment now. So you have to do the best with what your assets are. You have to take advantage of them. Now, obviously, it helps when someone is more of a total package.
Straight from the cover of Sports Illustrated, the hottest name in American sports today. This is Danica Patrick.
She's like really amazing. Sure, she's a beautiful girl, but she's in a real man's sport.
Boys, move over! The lady is coming!
And Danica Patrick made history Sunday, becoming the first woman to ever start the Daytona 500 from the pole position.
Danica Patrick. She drives fast, and she's highly marketable.
You know what? She's like a no-brainer. Men love her. Money.
Dude, check it. Oh, your new domain name and website from GoDaddy.com?
Yep, and now that I'm online, it's like I can make anything happen.
Danica Patrick.
Suddenly I have the urge to take another shower.
This is awesome!
No one knew who GoDaddy was. They're in this non-differentiable business of selling domain names. She moves the needle, man. She literally made them hundreds of millions of dollars by looking hot.
Danica Patrick. Some critics complain she spent her time capitalizing on being racy instead of spending her time focusing on racing.
People get very nervous and upset when women are sort of like, oh, okay, exploiting is what we're doing, then I'll do it myself. They get very nervous about that. That's uncomfortable for all of us. I mean, when a woman's like, yeah, here it is.
To the critics that say that it's too risque, that she's using her looks, what do you have to say to them?
I would say I'm gonna use what I can to get money, to get a ride, because I feel like it's opening a door. All it does is open the door to get inside and show what I can do.
Success is what? Doing really what makes you happy. Is she out there trying to get it done? She is. Go for it.
All right, so what does a woman athlete need to do now to make money and get noticed?
A woman athlete needs to extend their brand. They need to move without the ball. Create relevance, create news, create people talking about you when you're not playing the sport.
Jones, so popular.
Great world-class athlete hurdler Lolo Jones. She's a tough competitor.
Short Lolo Jones became a major media figure almost overnight.
I was the #1 ranked hurdler in the world, but I had no major Olympic sponsor. And so that's when I did a little bit of thinking and researching, and I was like, okay, who is getting the top sponsorships? What athletes are, and what are they doing differently that I am not? The highest one on all of their lists was, how many Twitter followers do they have? How many Facebook likes do they have? So from that moment on, I made sure to try to make social media a priority.
Mile by mile, step by step.
I should have got a job sitting at a desk.
She really became a social media phenomenon.
She's a 21st century athlete who seems to tweet just about her every move, and fans and the media can't seem to get enough.
I think with Lolo, you got the sense that you got closer to her than any other Olympian. You know, and so she got the deals with McDonald's, and she got the deals with Asics, and she got the deal with Red Bull. Lolo turned heads. And I think for some people, it got unappealing.
So, can you talk to me a little about the scathing New York Times article?
Well, I found out just by reading my Twitter, at replies, and people were just saying, hey, have you read this article on you? It was right before I was about to run my first race at the Olympics. Oh, I don't want to read this crap. Jones has received far greater publicity than any other American track and field athlete competing in the London Games. This was not based on achievement, but her exotic beauty and on a sad and cynical marketing campaign.
The New York Times did a very tough piece criticizing you for being more image than accomplishment.
Yeah.
How hard was that to deal with?
I worked 6 days a week, every day for 4 years for a 12-second race. And the fact that they just tore me apart, it was just heartbreaking. I mean, I laid it out there. I fought hard for my country. And I think it's just a shame that I have to deal with so much backlash when I'm already so brokenhearted as it is.
Lolo Jones finished 4th in the 100
She
meters.
finished 4th in the 100-meter hurdles, a 1/10 of a second short of
a medal by a 100th of a second.
She's the most publicized U.S. Olympic athlete to not win a medal here.
I was attacked because I didn't win a medal at the Olympics, but I got sponsorships. Wow. 4th place in my eyes is still pretty good. 4th in the world, I'll take it. But people were like, you should give the money back, you should give the money back.
I have a chance to get sponsors every 4 years, and that money has to last because if you know anything about the Olympics, that in between, those 4 years in between is like the desert.
So tell me, have things really gotten better for women since Title IX?
Well, I think without question, women who aspire to be athletes, who want to play sports, are better off today than they were 30 years ago. I mean, Title IX opened doors for girls in college, and it began through that process to open minds.
I think it really encouraged young girls to go out there and aspire to their dreams and try to reach their goals. It just gave women more choices.
I was able, because of Title IX, to get a college scholarship to play soccer. That was really what helped me fulfill my dreams.
The participation has gone through the roof. But despite Title IX, women have really gained very little at the professional sports level over time.
We in the sports business don't make the rules. It's a cultural issue. It's not just a women in sport issue. That's the way it is.
I think unless we say, okay, as a culture, greed is bad, we'd have to say fame is not something that everyone reveres or is interested in. You know, it's like we'd have to look at all of the messages that we send on a daily basis about, you know, what we think is important.
So where are we today in terms of female athletes? I think that we are about midway up the mountain. I think we've made a lot of progress, but I think we have a lot of progress to make.
I think down the road, society is going to accept strong female athletes, and I can't wait to see that day. You know, I'm gonna be a fan, looking at some of these athletes being like, that's my girl right there. Yeah, fix away.
Really just here to put it down.
Really? Pain in the ass this whole interview, I can tell you that. Okay, can we start this over again? Sure.
No, this is important. I gotta find this article. Here we go. Tracking down Brandy's bra.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Tell me about...
Am I depressing you?
Our world is you can say on this, right?
You're awesome.
Do I like the short shorts for men in the 70s? Absolutely. I want to see legs on guys. I like looking at men's legs.
Were there any endorsements that you got offered and rejected?
Condoms. They totally wanted to sponsor me.
Okay, so you're telling me that there's women who are willing to play football in their lingerie and tackle each other.
Yes.
Okay. It's almost like really bad news, like, you know, when you see like, you know, 98 people run over by a train or something. I swear by nature, I just look the other way because I'm like, I don't even want to know. I don't want this to even go inside my brain.